Hi, this will just be a short little demonstration on how to do a family of curves on GeoGebra. So first, I want to bring your attention to the input where you can put in sequences. So if you just start typing in sequence, you'll see, well, you'll scroll down. It's just outside of the field of view for you. But you can scroll down and kind of select this. You can type in an expression. That could be something as simple as, let's say, k squared. So you want all the numbers that are the squared numbers, right? And then you just hit tab, and then you can say, well, what's the variable in there? Well, it's k. And then you can say start value, so I want it to start at -3 and perhaps go all the way to 8, and that's the k values that it'll take. You could also add, comma, the increase. So if you don't put in anything, it'll assume that you're increasing by 1. So -3, -2, -1, etc., etc., all the way to 8. But you could also say something like, I want it to increase by 0.5. So something like this. Okay. So if you don't put it in, it'll just assume you've put in 1. So if I put that in, you'll see here, it just gives you a list of all those numbers squared. -3 to 8 squared. Okay? And as I said before, if I go back to this and I say, well, no, actually I want it to increase by 0.5, those k values, it will give you -3, -2.5, -2, etc., 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 all the way. So there'll be twice as many numbers. Okay? Now, this sequence, you can also choose to use to create equations with it. So if I have something as simple as like k times x, where k is my variable, what I'll be creating is a bunch of linear equations, and k will be the slope. So I can start at, let's say, -3 all the way to 8 again, I don't know. Or perhaps I'll make it -8 to 8. Give it some symmetry, right? And then I'll say, well, I'll do an increment by 0.2. So kind of slowly increase the slope. And you get this, so you get a really nice little graph there, right? Now, of course, to me, this is starting to look like a little piece of art here. So then I get interested in trying to kind of make it a little nicer. You may want to change the color of the lines. You may want to mess around with the thickness of the lines, like that. You may want to, if I just click on the graph somewhere, get rid of the axes. You can add that if you want. It kind of gives you an optical illusion where the lines are, the horizontal and vertical lines are looking a little bent. So you can create something like that. You can go back and keep tweaking this if you want more of these lines, if you want fewer of them, if you want the slopes to be bigger, you can go from -10 to 10, like that. Kind of increase it. Notice it doesn't make much of a difference. So you can kind of fool around with that and get something that you might think is kind of a nice little piece of art. Okay? So that's basically what I've just created there is a family of curves. Okay? So what it is an equation that has a parameter that I've changed. In this case, I've been using k as that parameter. You can get a little fancier and do something like sequence, let's say k times x plus k squared. Sure, that's good enough. Or actually, yeah, no, let's try it, see what that gives you. So we'll give you something like that. Variable will be k, the start value, what should it be? -8 to 8, increment 1, and just see what that gives me. So it gives me something like that. I'll get rid of this one. That may not be very impressive. You may not like that, so we'll just keep playing with it. Again, it's a straight line, you notice. So maybe 0.1, kind of, but that looks interesting. It's a series of lines, but it gave me a nice little curve here. So that kind of became a little more interesting. Okay, now you can get more creative than that. In fact, I'll just create another one. Sequence, what shall we choose? Shall we do one with a trig function? Why not? So I'm just kind of looking at another graph that I've created there. So let's do 1 divided by k times the sine of k times x. That's good enough. And this being k, this being negative 10 to 10, and I'll do, 10 to 10, and increments of 0.2. And let's see what that gives us. Unbalanced bracket. What did I do? I forgot to close the bracket here. Very nice of GeoGebra to let me know that there's a problem. And you get something like this. That's kind of an interesting little graph. I can choose to change the scale a little bit. I can fool around with it like that. I can also choose to drag along the axes. If I go with this, I can kind of flatten it out. I can change the axes like this, kind of take a closer look at what's going on. I can squish it like this and get some interesting little effects. So I don't think there's all kinds of things. You can try exponentials, logarithmic, tangent, secants, all kinds of things that you can try. And you can create some interesting little graphs. A few little extra things to note is that you can, if you go here, you can look at your graphics and take a look at what your dimension is. You're going to need that for a little piece of work that I'm going to ask you later to see what the screen size is of your graph. You can do some other things in here, for example, background color. So I can choose to do a lovely green. Don't know why. And take a look at what that looks like. There we go. Doesn't look a little Isaac green look there to it. So it's real nice. And you create a family of curves. They have the same property, except there's one parameter that you're changing. And you can graph them out like that. Okay, so I think that covers it. Hope you enjoyed it, and get creative.